Today's guest is Matt Schroeder. He's the co-founder and CEO at The Cosine. Matt, thank you for coming on the show.
So happy to be here.
Awesome. I know Kurt introduced us. I had him as a guest. I know you guys know each other through the EO Entrepreneurs organization. Um, Talk to me about entrepreneurship and what you're doing.
Yeah, so I very recently became an entrepreneur. I started a company called The Cosine 3 years ago this July, so three and change. It's uh, a company that's founded under the premise that there's a lot of efficiency to be created in the world of architectural lighting, not just specification, but also procurement. Um, and that's our go-to-market strategy is pretty much to streamline as much as we can with regards to lighting and take it to architects and designers around the country.
Yeah, yeah. And my understanding is you have prior background before you took the leap.
One more time, sorry.
My understanding is you have a prior background in lighting, the lighting side
Yes,
of things. Yeah, before you
it's
made the leap.
basically my entire career has been lighting related. I've done everything from uh, be a national account manager for a Belgian line to importing architectural lighting lines from Europe, doing Title 24 listing, which is technical and unique, but I did a lot of that. And now I handle the procurement side of Cosine, and that's my primary role.
Got it. So you talked about the efficiency that you're trying to, drive. Walk me through that. What was the experience before and what experience are you trying to give now?
Sure. So lighting, the best way to describe the efficiency that we're trying to create is to sort of describe what occurs currently. Um, Lighting is incredibly disjointed. We don't know really how that occurred, but it's just the market that we were born into. So I'm going to do the design side first. So with regards to lighting design, most projects, I would say like 98% of projects don't have the ability to hire a separate consultant specifically for lighting. And architects, no matter how high up the chain in architecture you go, most of them have only taken like one class in college regarding lighting. And it's ironic because, lighting and architecture have been sort of married and intertwined since the birth of architecture. Like there's, mirror systems in the pyramids to get light inside of them. And so somewhere along the way with the advent of artificial light, uh, that got lost. And so in order to bring a lighting consultant on, usually it's another fee. So it's either hourly or it's like a fee on top of the architecture fee, on top of the interior design fee, on top of the MEP fee. And so there's like this exhaustion on the ownership side where they're like, you know what? I just don't want to pay another consultant. The other problem with lighting design as it currently exists is it's disconnected from pricing. So a lighting designer has no control over the price of the goods that they're specifying, nor do they really have any visibility into it. They have like, well, like if you ask them how much is the downlight that they specified, they'll be like, well, it's about 300, and then they don't have any control and they don't have any, you know, ability to maintain that price point that they quoted. And that brings me to the other side, which is procurement. And it's distributed via a tiered markup chain. So there's the factory that makes things. There's then third-party sales agencies that are geographic and like territory based. Um, and those are called, we call them reps. So they're sales, it's a third-party sales agency. And then on top of the rep, there's a distributor which aggregates all of the specs from all the various reps, who then sells it to the EC, who then sells it to the GC, who then sells it to you. So as you can imagine, at any point in time, someone along that chain can be greedy, someone can be lazy. Like, it's not just pricing too. It's also like that's how information moves. So inevitably, there's an error or something goes wrong in the field, and it has to move back through that chain in order to get addressed by the factory, um, which is frustrating.
Yeah, for sure. So
So what
what
about
are
yours?
you, I guess you're trying to remove parts of the chain. How are you tackling that to make it more efficient?
So what we're doing is it's basically vertical integration, right? We're taking ownership of the lighting design. So on our staff, about 50% of our staff is our lighting designers. And then what we do is we charge a fee. Wait for it though. Hold on. We charge a $2 a square foot fee, and it's based on unique square footage. And then that gets applied to the package that inevitably gets bought out. So ownership has the right to buy our lighting design package or our lighting product package that we designed, from us when they go to construction. And then the fee that we've charged is applied to that buyout.
Got it. So does that mean that if they, there's a certain amount of work you do up front, and they have the option of paying for it in different ways, or
Correct. Exactly. So basically, we would charge a fee for the design because we have to do all of this legwork to actually execute the design like a
yeah,
normal lighting consultant. And then they have the option to apply that payment in whole to the buyout of their fixtures. It does a couple of things setting it up that way. One, it's lower barrier to entry for ownership to sign on because they can understand the value of a lighting designer sometimes, right? A lot of the times we're competing with
got
standard
it.
designers as well. But then it also allows them the ability to not have to trust us that we're the best price in town. They can actually truly vet it. They can go out and bid, go through the standard chain of markups, and then inevitably we win by about 10 to 15%, depending on what the project is, and they get to apply the
Got
discount
it.
of the money they've already
So
paid.
one side of the business is the loss leader, essentially, right? It's either the design side or the procurement side, but you're basically being transparent about what you are making, right? And
Correct.
how you're applying it. Okay, that's cool. You're basically just making it easier. And then also, I guess, since you know, at the core of it, you're trying to design the best package possible. Your credibility can rest on the fact that you put it out there and this is what you need to do.
Exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, in our hearts and sort of soul of the company, we're a lighting design studio. We just operate a little bit differently. We just bill a little bit differently,
Yeah.
and offer some perks by getting transparent and low pricing.
Yeah. So, and depending on who you talk to, maybe you say something along the lines of, "Hey, look, if you get the product from us, we chuck in the design fee," or the other side is we'll design it for you. You go to your suppliers.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so what we've done effectively is we've made a network of top quality suppliers at various price points. So like high, medium, low for every product category.
Got it.
And we exclusively work in a direct capacity with factories. Will not deal with any agents, and that's who we're really, sort of challenging as
Yeah.
their value.
And basically, if they're, it's this for you, it's the same thing, but you don't have to fight with the resistance of the fatigue of having to pay more consultants if that's not how they want to look at it.
Correct. I mean, most of these guys are going out to market and putting products on market when they're developing these residences or whatever, with no lighting consultant. And we would argue that lighting's important. It's what makes or breaks a space, right? You can put all the fancy finishes you want in a space, but if you can't see them, what's the value?
Got it. Yeah, exactly. You can't see them. What other um, things that, let's say, these professionals that have only taken one lighting course would miss, or what opportunities would there be? I mean, like you said, you can't see the finishes, you can't see this, but what are the other opportunities that someone could benefit from bringing a company like yours on?
Well, so we actually had a really it's a great question. We recently just did an interview. We're starting to collect interviews of customers that have sort of taken a project from inception, design, all the way through procurement and installation and getting it photographed. And one of the best sort of sound bites to come out of that process was something unexpected. One of our best clients said, with Cosine, I'm able to take more of a risk. So it's not that they didn't know lighting, right? They knew how to wash a wall, they knew how to, lay out downlights and incorporate linear into under cabinet, but they couldn't take any risks with regards to lighting because it was too risky for them to have a failure. So with us, they're really able to push the lighting that occurs in their architecture and use the lighting to emphasize the architecture that they're trying to create, which I think was a great compliment because it was really specific to the design team and their capability to execute.
Yeah, I mean, describe this risk because for me, usually when I think of lighting and risk, I don't know. Maybe they're not lighting the stairs or something like that. I'm not sure. Like, what was their sort of perception of their risk of like, was it a technical risk in terms of not, you know, pulling it off, or was it more like it's going to look bad, and it's not what they wanted?
Well, let's take a simple example, right? Rather than thinking of a kitchen with a flat drywall ceiling, take into consideration a vaulted ceiling with beams spanning the ceiling. The best, well, not the best, but a way to light that we feel would be compelling would be to use those beams as the mounting point for the light to emanate. So it looks very seamless. The problem is, like, an architect can be like, yeah, sure, we'll just throw some LED tape on. But that's not going to give you a great effect. It's probably just going to give you like stripes on the ceiling with no real lighting effect down at the kitchen island, for example. So, what the lighting designer's capability is to spec the correct product so that the optics, throw the light perfectly up into the ceiling. There's enough output so that it actually bounces off the ceiling and comes down, and you can still use execute for task down at the kitchen island level. That's the way that lighting designers think about light. This is a broad brush, but architects think about lighting, and general contractors think about lighting in form of symmetry. So it should be even across the space. It should be like, we call it 4 foot on grid. So there's a light every 4 feet in a grid across the space. What that does is it gives you extremely bland lighting because everything's lit at the same light level. So there's no hierarchy, there's no contrast. But then think about the last time you went to have a fancy meal or drink at a bar. It's all about contrast. You want the bottles behind the bar to be lit. You want the mood in front of you to be very dark, but you still want to be able to read the menu. Like, there are tasks that occur in these spaces, and that's how lighting designers think about lighting, and that's what makes spaces have soul, right, and have hierarchy.
Yeah, for sure. Now, for you, being someone that's sold or been in the industry a long time, what was the difference when you made the leap to entrepreneurship? What did you have to learn?
Everything. I knew how to sell lights. I had no idea about most of the other challenges that come with entrepreneurship. I say that this last 12 to 18 months has really been the most amount of growth that I've had in my entire life. Just to touch on that, banking, taxes, HR, people management, it's been a whole new world. EO has helped a lot with that, frankly. Just being able to understand what other people are doing, ask questions, voice uh, all of the doubt that echoes in your head every day. But it's been super rewarding. I feel like, I feel like I could go start another 5 companies now, just with different ideas that are dancing around in my brain, with confidence. Um, yeah,
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned people. What did you learn about managing or growing out your HR?
sure. Uh, so on the people front, um, we read a book called "It Doesn't Have to Be Crazy at Work." It really resonated with us. It's the guys from Basecamp that wrote it. I don't know. Maybe it's like the simple language that they use and kind of like their authoritative view on everything. But we loved it. We gravitated towards what they were saying. It made a lot of sense. There's uh, again, broad brush, but there's a challenge in the architectural community, and this goes for lighting design too, where because those businesses are primarily service based and hourly based, that in order to increase the profitability of those companies, you basically just have to get employees to work harder, to put up more hours, to service more work without hiring additional staff. Um, it's something that we see as a problem. And the way we're structured allows us to sort of uh, improve people's work life balance. So we're a full remote team. We've always been a full remote team. Most likely that occurred because we were born out of COVID. It also makes us fairly nimble because we don't spend money on any kind of rent or office space. And so we're able to kind of give people a lot of perks, if they join our company. So we do like freecation. We actually do mandatory vacation where we pay a stipend for every staff member to take a week off. And it's kind of fun. The staff loves it because the company just upgrades their vacation that they take. We're doing self improvement plans where any staff member can sort of elect to take a course or something that improves their career, and it can be very tangential. We had a lighting designer take a pottery class over the winter. It was actually very compelling because they were able to come back and kind of talk about the essence of those materials and how they could be incorporated into lighting products and what the limitations of that product was and things like that. So there's been some good results out of that. But at the end of the day, being able to uh, be more of a distributor in how we actually make money has allowed us, I don't know, to just retain talent, right? Because we're making that margin on the buy sell side. We've been able to like really capture a lot of high quality lighting designers and bring them in house.
Sure, makes sense. As you become more, I guess, known for the type of stuff that you're doing outside your current network, I guess your economy of scale, the buying, purchasing power is going to go up, right? So um,
Yes,
your ability to be profitable and not be, like you said, one to one in terms of billings to people hours, right? So
exactly. And look, if we're a lighting design studio, right, in our head, and like that's the product that we end up putting into the market is excellent execution of lighting design, that'll naturally attract talent. And then if we can pay them competitively, they can work from home. If we're attracting talent, at scale, how could we not become the best lighting design firm as long as our procurement our structure in the background doesn't break? We don't make anything, so if we get a factory to capacity, we can just get a second, supplier. Um, so there's a lot of opportunity for scale with what we're trying to accomplish.
sure. Um, how are you getting the word out there?
We're not. We're not. We need to improve that. Currently, we're using some archaic techniques. We're like hitting the pavement. We're doing lunch and learns. We're sort of uh, blending in with the structure that already exists. I think that will change soon. My guess would be between 6 and 12 months, um, where we'll start to make a more rigorous PR campaign, marketing campaigns, thing like that. We have to be a little sensitive in our industry because brand perception is very important to designers, and so we want to be pretty careful about how we put our brand name out there. Um, but yeah, it's that's my learning curve for next year.
There's always a never-ending
Yeah,
to-do list, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Cool. I think I was looking at an org chart online. I think you started this with your wife. Is that correct?
My wife helped us in the background. She was fantastic. She helped us set everything up. She handled all of like the So part of running a remote office, if you're going to do it correctly, is you have to have companies set up in every single jurisdiction where you have a staff member. So that's super fun. She was handling that for us. She was handling sales tax structure, and she was handling the accountants. My business partner is Noelle. She runs the lighting design side. Her background is she's been a lighting designer for about 15 years. Started her career at U of I, got her master's at Parsons, went to work for a lighting design firm in New York, and then ended up at WeWork, starting the lighting design department at WeWork as they were scaling rapidly. And that's actually where Cosine. That's where we met. I was selling lighting products to WeWork, and so when that started to fall apart, I sort of tackled her and was like, "Hey, I have this idea. Like, I think between the two of us, we know most things about lighting. Let's start a company."
Very cool. Um, so you talk about marketing. The next thing, I mean, how talked a little bit about the future, but how do you want this to all go? What's your vision?
Uh, it's we think it's three pronged. Right now, Cosine is servicing um, smaller firms. So we're servicing firms that specialize in like single family residential projects, boutique commercial, so like a single tenant for a commercial property, and then like retail. Hospitality would be like restaurants and stuff like that. But it's smaller jobs. Like I would say 100,000 square feet or less is sort of our sweet spot. Um, we see an ability to scale that a lot more than we already have done. But at some point, the brand's going to get traction. That's what we hope, right? That people will start to come to us to help them with the lighting design. When that happens, my guess is a lot of the other design firms are going to kind of like look over their shoulder and be like, "Oh God, these guys are doing things differently, and it's working." And so at that moment, we feel it's a good idea to sort of invite them into the sphere rather than let them try to compete with us by bringing them into the ecosystem that we've created on the procurement side. So we could basically white label the structure that we've put in place and back it up with the staff to execute the procurement on behalf of these other lighting design companies and sort of give it to them to offer as an opportunity with their clientele. And that's then very rapid scale. And then I think the third piece is a lot of product is no longer proprietary, right? So a 3-inch downlight is a 3-inch downlight is a 3-inch downlight. And at some point, it's not that we would try and compete with the vendor partners that are, really pushing the envelope and creating new things, but like at in some capacity, we could get this equipment produced ourselves and white label our own line inside for sort of like the commodity tier product. So that's how we see scale. That's how, and I can't see the bottom of that, frankly. That's a lot of opportunity for us.